Hey folks, welcome back to Abundant Life Homestead. A couple days ago we had an early morning accident that involved me, an injury, and a trip to the emergency room. Now I'm sitting here in front of you, so I'm obviously going to be okay, but I am going to be kind of out of commission for a few days. I want to give you a fair warning though, because in this video I'm going to show open wounds. There's going to be a little bit of blood. There's going to be the aftermath when the doctor patched it up, and I want to walk you through the first aid that I gave myself just so I could get to the hospital. So if that's not your thing, perfectly understandable. You can go ahead and back out now. Have a wonderful and blessed day. We'll see you next time. If that is your thing, if you want to see what happened, stay tuned. Okay, for those of you who are still here, I'll show you here and now. My hands, the fingers on my left hand are kind of swelled up like hot dogs, especially that middle finger. On this side, kind of looks a little crispy. Those are actually stitches. There's a whole lot of them underneath and on the surface. So what the heck happened? So I woke up early in the morning, got half dressed, come outside, cup of coffee in my hand, leaned up against the banister going up to the door. It was this banister, in fact. It's a kind with the vertical slats that go down to a matching banister below. Same morning I've had for probably 15 years. I come out, I sip my coffee, enjoy the morning air, but this particular morning, leaning on that banister and it gave out. Took me tumbling backwards with it. The bottom banister stayed firmly in place, so that didn't help matters, tripping me on the way down. Now, the entire reason for my disability is my failed back. I broke my back in two places between the L5 and S1 vertebrae and S1 and S2 vertebrae. Surgery didn't go so well. I've got bolts and rods holding L5 to S1, but they failed to get S2 in place, so S1 and S2 sit on top of each other with just waiting for something to rip them apart. So any kind of fall or impact that affects my back is a little scary anyway. And I'm laying there pretty dazed trying to figure out if I hurt my back. And while everything's still fuzzy, I lift my hand up and look at it, and there's just blood pouring down from it. So I got myself up, I got in the house, I yelled for Melinda. She was still in bed. Grabbed a towel, started sopping up the blood, looked down in there, I could see yellow and white tissue, and immediately knew this was beyond me, but I had to get it closed up, at least enough to get to the hospital. The next thing I want to show you is how I took care of this, because when you live out in a place like this, and even if you're not this far away, if you got your own little half-acre homestead in the middle of town, you need to know how to do some first aid. Okay, I don't want to mess with the finger that's already buggered up, so we're going to make ourselves a new injury with a rusty knife blade. You can see that this slit starts way down here, goes all the way around to about here. So, ow, oh crap, I just slit my finger wide open. I'm pretending. I just drew a new injury on my finger. It's okay. It's okay, buddy. Okay, so the first thing I do, I run inside, I grab a paper towel, wrap it around that finger, try to sop up some of that blood that's already dripping all over the floor. In the meantime, go grab the first aid kit, bring it over. Start peeling the paper towel back, blotting as much of that blood as I can off, look down in there, and I can see the white and yellow tissue under the skin. Anytime you can see tissue that's below the skin, the problem is probably beyond you. Steri strips ain't going to cut it when they're that deep. And I tell you what, if you got to give yourself sutures, it is not mind-numbingly painful. If you're a prepper, keep that in mind. You can do sutures yourself. It'll save a life, but the pain will probably throw the patient into shock if you don't have anything to numb it. Okay, so we got the first aid kit. We start digging through it. We've got Band-Aids. Tell you what, Band-Aids are not going to do the job on a cut that's this deep. You're either going to pull this side and pull this side. It's going to keep that wound open. It's going to continue to bleed. Or you're going to pull in on both sides and the Band-Aid's going to buckle. It's still not going to stop the bleed. But if Band-Aids is all you got, by all means, get them on there, get them tight, get your butt to the hospital. Kind of the same with a gauze wrap. You can wrap this thing up with gauze, but you're not going to stop the bleeding if you don't know what you're doing. But if gauze is all you got, gauze is all you know, get it on there and get to somebody who knows better. So what did I do? Okay. I grabbed a non-stick gauze pad out of the kit. Rip it open. I don't want the whole big thing here. Got the scissors. Cut myself a couple strips. Use the rest of it to sop up some of the blood. Took some tape. I'm trying to kind of do this in real time as I did it. Put a little bit of tape on the top of one of that gauze. Want the tape up beyond the injury. And just lightly on there, not tight there. Second section of tape. Same thing, lower than the injury, just a little bit of tape. This gauze is going to sop up the blood. Now we got gauze to sop up the blood, we need something to put pressure on it. The other section cut a short piece of tape. And yes, this is as clumsy as it was doing it when it happened. Take another piece of tape, fold this piece of gauze in half, put that little tape on there. And this one, I'll put it on one side, pull it tight right on top of that injury, tighten it on the other side. I don't want to wrap all the way around this thing with the tape for the same reason that the Band-Aids won't work and everything else. If you try to keep wrapping all the way around, it's going to start pulling in one way and pulling out from the other way. I'm just taking several short pieces of tape. Pull it tight. Ow, I just hit the hurt finger. I wasn't supposed to do that. Pull it tight all the way to both sides. What this is doing is closing up that wound just enough to hold it closed, and then the other gauze is putting pressure on it to keep it down, keep it flat, and keep it closed. Now I've got a hasty pressure dressing on this thing, but I know it's not going to last long, especially with me having to drive myself to the hospital. So that's where I grabbed some Coband. I don't want to waste any more Coband, so this is some that I've already had cut, and pull this stuff tight. Now that you've got that wound pretty much covered, you can do a tight wrap. Pull it tight, wrap it around, give that finger as much cushion, as much pressure as you can. So that's where I got to before I left the house. The doctor, I said, was quite impressed with my pressure dressing, asked me where I learned how to do it. I told him I had several years of combat lifesaver training in the Army, and my best friend now was my medic in the Army then. I think he'd knock me out if I messed this up. So I made myself a pressure dressing on it, told Melinda I had to head to the ER. With the kids and old folks at home, she really couldn't take me, so I was kind of on my own and drove the whole 40 minutes to the hospital with my hand up on top of the truck. Luckily, the ER was pretty quiet. I got right in. Doctor took a look at it. He was quite impressed with the pressure dressing that I'd made. Up till this point, I hadn't even got concerned with taking any pictures or videos, so sorry about that, but I can show you what it looked like as soon as we unwrapped it here. Now, all things considered, that looks pretty good, don't it? That dressing and my hand elevated on the truck did its job. By the time I got to the hospital, the bleeding had pretty much stopped and the deeper tissue was bonding itself back together. And when I got home, I figured out what happened. There's these two metal brackets on this end. Well, there were two more on that end. One of those old rusty brackets is what caught my finger and ripped up through it. So I got a tetanus shot, and unfortunately the doctor had to open that wound back up. They x-rayed my finger to make sure I didn't hurt any bone, but he had to get in there and visually look, make sure it was good and cleaned out. Had to check and see if I had damaged any tendons in there, and also, as deep as it was, he wanted to put a couple stitches down on the inside. Thankfully, he gave me some lidocaine shots before he did that. I tell you what, though, if you ever have to get lidocaine shots right between your fingers, that is excruciatingly painful. But it's part of the process. He started working on it. He wouldn't let me take a video. He said, one picture, no video. Okay. So I got one of him putting in some of the exterior stitches. You can see here. He's a pretty good doctor, though. Pretty cool guy. I liked him. And all said and done, I've got a couple stitches on the inside. I've got 10 on the outside. Nothing's going to be permanently damaged. I get these taken out in about 10 days, and I should have full use of my finger back. But my wife is being adamant about me not working on anything for those 10 days and not compromising this wound again. So I'm kind of down for a while, but that's okay. I've still got my finger and everything's going to be fine. Now, oddly enough, this wasn't the first time I had to do a pressure dressing here on the homestead. A couple years ago, me and my oldest son were camping in our woods while Mama and the two little ones were away at church camp. Being just a couple hundred yards from the house, I made the stupid mistake of thinking, well, if we need a Band-Aid, we'll come back to the house and get it. And then my son hit himself with a hatchet, and I immediately regretted that decision. Dressing wasn't as pretty that day. I made it out of blue shop towels and rope, but same deal. I got the bleeding stopped, got correct pressure on it, got him into the hospital, got him stitched up. I've only got one surviving photo of that, and it's his stitches after they were all cleaned up. But he's doing fine now with that one. He doesn't even have a scar. I kind of think this one's going to scar up quite a bit. There's a lot of scrunching in the skin here. I don't know. We'll see in the future. So anyway, that's all I got for you today. Just a little PSA, homesteader or not. If you don't have any first aid training, get some first aid training. And don't just learn how to treat specific wounds. Learn how your body works, learn how your supplies work. And when there's an injury, learn how to make them work together. You'll be a lot better off for it. But if you found this video interesting, I'd appreciate your like. If you have any questions or you have your own experience to add, put it in the comments below. And if you want to see more videos from my channel, I'd appreciate your subscription. Otherwise, until next time, keep on nourishing your dreams, cultivating your passions, embracing the beauty of God's creation. Have a wonderful and blessed day. We'll see you then.